are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Please stand by.
Operators are standing by.
You're gonna be okay, kid. You're gonna be okay.
We've had Colin Farrell in a phone booth. We've had James Franco in a canyon. We've had Sandra Bullock in space. We're gonna have Matt Damon on Mars. We've had Ryan Reynolds in a box. But now we got Tom Hardy in the latest BMW model. This is Locke, and this is a freaking amazing film. Let me back up a little bit. Let me back up a little bit before we get on to that. This is the Honeydew Podcast reviewing latest British movie starring Tom Hardy, Locke. I am Dale
Locke.
Downton. Locke. It's sadly enough not starring Locke from Lost, but my name is Dale Downton. I'm joined today by Nathan Heskey.
Hello, listeners.
Nathan, I told you a while back I was really excited for this movie when the trailers came out.
You sure did.
I was saying this is going to be the best movie of April. I said that. I ain't taking them back. I said that. I was hyping this up to no ends. And you know what, Nathan? It lived up to the goddamn praise I was giving it, man. I love this movie so goddamn much, man. I want to kiss this movie. I want to kiss Tom Hardy. I want to kiss the BMW.
Why, you nearly had a chance the other day to kiss him?
I know, man. He was doing a premiere 2 days before it was coming out, man. I don't know what that guy was doing there, but he looked fresh. He didn't have his beard from this movie. He didn't have his BMW. He had 4 ladies on the side. Man, I wish I was Tom Hardy right now. But yeah, what do you think of this movie, man? What's your initial thoughts of Locke?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I went in not knowing really what it was about. All I knew, it was a very confined setting. Being in the car, travelling down the M6. And I thought it was going to be like he was being threatened or his family were in danger, you know, those usual plot lines. And man, I was surprised. The story just come out of like nowhere, and I was like, I was so immersed in the film, in the character and the other characters, which you don't even get to see. You just hear their voices. That's how good this film is. You know, you just hear them through the hands free.
Just Tom Hardy?
Just Tom Hardy. That's all you see. But this film never got boring.
No, man, this was exciting.
It really did. I mean, you'd think, oh man, we're just gonna, the camera's on a man in a car going down the motorway. You know, how could they make this interesting?
Yes.
But Stephen Knight, the director, he has done a wonderful job with the cinematography. He was very creative with how he filmed this. I've got to say, like I was really impressed, because I thought, okay, maybe it's gonna kind of get repetitive, you know, just the shot from one window to another window. But no, he kept things fresh, and the film went from strength to strength.
It's funny because a film came out last year in a similar vein to this bottle type film.
Yeah.
All Is Lost, a great film starring Robert Redford, but the problem with that, which held it back from being a great film, was that it did start to feel very repetitive, and it started to feel like it started to wane on the audience. I felt. I don't know if you felt that same way with that particular film.
I think it's because there was literally a few lines of dialogue.
Yes, yeah.
And it was more just about the physicality of the performance rather than any talking of any sort. It was it was conveying it through the music and the surrounding.
Well, this film, Tom Hardy, and the film concerns, he's a construction manager, and he's on the I won't say where he's going, but he's on the M6, and he gets a series of phone calls which kind of changes his entire life in the space of this 85-minute screen time runtime. And I have to admit, for a film like this, I mean, you expect this film to have them moments where it starts boring the audience, or it starts repeating shots, or it starts reiterating the same point over and over. Now, and this film is one of the most exciting movies I've seen this year, simply because it's one of the best scripts. It's funny, it's dark, and it's just Tom Hardy commands the screen.
Yeah.
This is one of the finest performances all year. I mean, we said that a few times. We've said it about Brendan Gleeson and Calvary. We've said it about a few people. But I'll be honest, this is one of the, since we've came out of the Oscar season with 12 years and stuff, this is the best performance I've seen all year. Apart from the Oscar performances like her and Travis Slave and that, this is the best male performance I've seen from an actor
It's definitely
this year.
up there. It is definitely
Tom Hardy, I mean, you know, we haven't really seen him in a very I mean, I haven't seen him in a very hard hitting drama in a long time. You know, he's been in a lot of these action roles for the past few years.
Yeah.
But this is where you really see what the hype is about this guy. I mean, this he went from strength to strength. He went through every emotion you could go through in this film, and you as it starts off with him being it seems like a normal kind of guy. You see that he has got a past that is kind of ruthless, and he is not exactly sane in the head. There's points where he's just kind of looking in the window mirror and just talking to himself.
He has these monologues with himself,
Hmm.
where he thinks he's talking to a certain person. I won't reveal who that
Yeah.
person is. And they're some of my favorite parts of the film,
Hmm.
because I mean, you get to see that happen like maybe 3 or 4 times, and it really pushes the story forward. It really pushes the whole reason of why he is the way he is, and his character just develops. I mean, it's funny. His character develops the further he goes down the M6. You know,
It's like
the more he
yeah.
gets into the journey, the more is revealed about him and what his true intentions are.
Hmm. Hmm. It's just funny that the symbolize that there is so much symbolism in this movie.
Yeah,
I never felt it to be heavy-handed. There is I won't say what it is, but there is a piece of symbolism towards the very end of this movie, which almost made me choke up.
I know what you
This
mean.
this movie was actually very emotional. I mean, there were points where I was just getting upset, and it was towards the end of the film. And you're right, the further he goes down this M6 route, the further he goes down to getting his life completely ruined for him.
Yeah,
And it never feels contrived. Like I know, like Phone Booth had a lot of like contrived moments. This didn't have that. 127 Hours had a lot of them boring moments. This didn't have that. Buried had a very bad ending. This has a freaking fantastic ending, and one of the most interesting endings like I've seen in a long time.
definitely an ending that leaves you wanting more. Like, because I didn't feel the runtime. I felt it just flew by. It really did.
This I wish this was longer, but I tell you what, 85 minutes. It never outstayed its welcome. I wanted more. As we came to the end, because usually you can tell when a film's coming to the end,
Yeah,
and I guess that's the only problem with the movie. Like I wanted so much more of it
yeah,
that I came out thinking, man, that would have been so cool if it had been about 5 minutes. Like if we had seen one more conversation, or if you know, but that's honestly not a discredit to the film. That is just a credit to this fantastic script.
definitely.
Um, and like I said, the cinematography is actually absolutely beautiful. They don't repeat the same shots. They do go for these different kind of shots, and even there's some symbolism in the shots themselves.
Yeah,
And it's funny how there's I don't know if you got this, but there are some signs. You know them signs you usually see on the motorway.
yeah. There was one.
These arrow signs, and that was such a telling moment in this thing for me. The two arrows pointing either way.
Yeah, there was even one on one of the side of the lorries that goes past.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
It's briefly like for a few seconds, and I like it could be interpreted in many ways. It was interesting. It was like 3 words. So I
Hmm.
mean, if you do go and watch this film, just have a watch out for that. But yeah, no, I definitely do what you mean, and especially with the lights. There was a
Yeah.
very good use of lighting and the actual lights on the actual motorway. I thought it was very creative of how he approached filming that and putting it into the film.
Well, I'm scared to drive on the M6 anymore because man, this guy, he's just having a normal drive home, and his life
It's falling
is
apart.
tore apart. Yeah, and the thing is, he will get the most horrifying news, the most upsetting news, and he'll stay calm.
Yeah,
He'll have that thing where he's like, for as an example, this doesn't happen in the film, but oh, your whole family's been killed. The red wedding has just happened. Your whole family's been killed, and he's just like, well, I have to do what I have to do. I'd be home soon. Like the world's coming to end. Well, I still have to do what I have to do. Gods came down. Oh, I have to do what I got to do. But I tell you what, even that little bravado he's putting on that kind of hard hitting thing that breaks over the course of the film.
yeah,
You see how he is a weak person, but he has them weak moments. And honestly, this is a character. It's funny that I actually really, really want to know what happens to this character after this film. I'm so interested that I really want to know what happens with all these characters he's been introduced with. What's going to happen with them, and the fact that we're not going to find out makes this film so much better because these kind of scenarios can happen to literally anyone,
Definitely.
which is a thing this film likes to remind you about, which is I get it doesn't come heavy-handed. But you know what, Nathan? I'm gonna say something. You might think I'm a bit crazy for saying this.
Okay.
Okay, especially because how I like these bottleneck films.
Yeah.
This is my favorite bottleneck movie ever made. I think this is better than
Wow.
100. I remember 127 hours is one of my
You
favorite
like
movies.
flipping love 127 hours until the cows come home, man. Obviously the cows have come home because you found a new film to love even more.
the cow's in the form of Tom Hardy.
Yeah, exactly.
But I
With
tell you what,
Bane masks on, all these
yeah.
cows with Bane masks.
Well, it's funny because 127 hours, I have said it is one of my favorite movies ever created.
Yeah.
I love that movie. In the year it came out, I think it's the best film in the year it came out. I'm sorry, but I think this movie's better than that, and that's a hard thing for me to say.
I think no,
Because
it's a fair thing because I mean,
this didn't have them
127
boring
hours.
moments.
It's a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not by that much, but what this film does within those 80 is it 84 minutes.
84 minutes, yeah.
What this film does within 84 minutes to tell this story, and then leave you wanting more, but not in a bad way, because it does leave you. Well, it left me content with what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and I think any good piece of entertainment should really want you leaving more, not milk it for all it's worth and kind of just ruin what it is. No, but definitely, I can understand that. I prefer it to 127 hours, but I never loved 27 hours as much as you did. So.
Yeah, I think the thing with me with that film is just I saw that at the right moment, at the
Yeah.
right time, like when, But yeah, this film is better than that, and I'm gonna say, man, I love how you brought up that thing with Tom Hardy and the Bane, because there was points in this movie where he started sounding like Bane. He would get a phone call, and he would go into this philosophical thing like, "How does the Batman is going out?" Like there was a point where I thought he was talking to Batman in that mirror.
Yeah.
I thought he was addressing Batman. I mean, this film is the prologue to when he. This film is the prequel to Dark Knight Rises.
There was a brilliant bit that like you could actually imagine him speaking to Batman because he says something like, "I will dig you out of your grave and I will show you the truth before." Like, he'll say all this like stuff, and it was like, this is brilliant. Like, and I remember saying to you after we come out of the screen, I was like, man, I want to see a recut edition where he plays Bane in the same role. He says the same dialogue, but with the mask and the voice.
Yeah,
Man, I'd pay to see that movie.
You think the BMW is your ally? You adopted the BMW. I drive in it on the M6.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that I loved about this film. These were the element that really made the film was the actors, because as well as Tom Hardy, we also had Andrew Scott, who, if you know who Andrew Scott is, especially for all those Sherlock fans out there, he plays Moriarty in Sherlock, and he is fantastic with him. The back and forth between him and Tom Hardy's character is just so funny, and then there's that emotional side to it. It's just everything. It's just great. And also we've got Olivia Colman from the Peep Show, and I mean she's really making it big now in British television. I mean she was recently in Broadchurch.
Oh, that's her.
Yeah, and she was in we saw her in Cuban Fury earlier on this year,
Oh,
but that was
yeah?
just a minor role. But another actress that was in this who, she's made it into Hollywood, but she's been in quite a few bad movies. She was in The Lone Ranger.
Oh no,
Ruth
that one.
Wilson. And she was also in. She was in Saving
Saving
Mr. Banks,
Mr.
but
Banks?
she was actually good in that. But
Yeah, yes.
her best role by far is Alice from the British television series Luther. So if you've
Oh.
watched that, she's absolutely wonderful in that beside Idris Elba.
Mhm.
But yeah, their characters in this, man, they just made the film even better, especially when he's talking to one person on the phone, and then someone's trying to call him, and then like he's dealing with all this shit, and then he has to cut it off and then talk to another person, and then he's got another problem to deal with. Just that's how the tension keeps mounting up and mounting up, and I just thought everyone was on their A game in this.
I absolutely agree. I mean,
Especially when you can't see them,
Yeah.
except for Tom Hardy.
it's a funny thing. We earlier this year we had that kind of similar thing with Her.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna straight up say I think this is a better movie than Her.
Wow.
People are gonna be surprised, but this is one of my favorite movies that I've ever seen, because it didn't dawn upon me how much I absolutely adore this movie until I got home. Because I'll admit, since I left screening, this has been on my mind the entire day. I keep thinking about this movie. I could watch this movie over and over and over again and never get bored. It sounds strange. It sounds strange because a lot of the movies reviewed so far, I've been saying we had a lot of great movies that reviewed so far.
Yeah.
This is the best movie I think that I think like I said, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's easily one of the best movies of the past few years, man. I know people are gonna disagree with me, and there is actually it's actually valid. I can see why people would disagree with that.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, man, this was this was, to me personally, and if people can disagree, that's fine. To me, this is a fucking masterpiece of a movie, and these are the kind of movies I want to see.
Well, I was shocked actually because the director of this film, Stephen Knight, he directed a film that I watched years ago and I absolutely loved, and I just watched it by chance. And it's a film called Dirty Pretty Things, and it's got a kind of more of a fresh-faced Chiwetel Ejiofor in his earlier days before, obviously,
before slavery.
Yeah, reaching the status that he is now.
After he skipped slavery.
This was beforehand, but
Okay.
I completely forgot about it, and I'm sure it's actually on the poster.
Oh.
And it's interesting that he went from that making that type of movie to making, because this is very much an independent film. It feels like something. It just feels like an idea for a short film, but it's been extended and adapted
very well.
And he has done it very well indeed. And kudos to Stephen Knight for, because I'm not gonna say it's a masterpiece yet. So I'm gonna let it sink in. But it is definitely one of the better films of this year. It really is a great movie.
Well, I mean, this couldn't have been made for much. This is very much a cheap film in terms of how much it must have cost.
I think most of the money probably just went to the actors. To be fair,
just Tom Hardy. But it got because this is coming out in the US on April 25th. It's getting a wide release. I really would recommend people going to see this because it is an absolutely brilliant movie. And for me to say, it's better than 127 Hours, and then to go on to say it's better than Her, both movies which I really do love. And me, I've said often that Her is the best movie of 2014.
Yeah. See, now
you
I'm
really should go
where
see
this
this.
is in your top 10.
When we actually do the podcast, when we actually do the podcast, you never know what changes. But I don't know if this review is sealed where people will think it is. But yeah, man, I would really recommend going to see this movie, man. It's an absolute freaking masterpiece in my opinion, and I don't see how people wouldn't at least enjoy it. So yeah, that's my opinion.
I mean, especially if you're a fan of Tom Hardy, then you are gonna love this film, because I personally think this is one of his best performances. I know he's, Bronson is probably one of his most. I mean, he's on the screen longer in Bronson, and it's more he's moving about the place. Obviously, in this film, he's just sitting in a car, but his facial expressions, even his physicality, just sitting down, just everything he does, all the kind of movements that he makes, like maybe just going to the glove compartment or just wiping his brow or something like that. It's all meaningful. It's like he put so much thought into how he was gonna move about in this such confined space. And so if you're a Tom Hardy fan, you'll love this movie. I mean, if you just want to see an interesting film with a different kind of take on storytelling, just give it a try. I mean, you might come out of this film absolutely loving it, because I thought this was going to be something completely different from what it actually was.
Well, it's funny, just before we wrap up, it's funny because we both praised it, but especially because we go to a lot of movies, but we actually went with someone today who isn't really into these particular bottleneck sort of films, and even that person ended up absolutely loving it as well.
That's a little shout out to Bellington.
That's the thing. Even if you are a casual moviegoer, I still think you'll really like this, and but the proof is in the amount of people that went today. But please go and see this movie, man. It really deserves to get people seeing it.
No, definitely. But there we go. Just go see Locke. It's a fantastic movie. Well, if you've seen this movie, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Drop a little comment in the comment section. Give us a like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We've got a lot of great things coming up, and we've also done some cool things so far. You might want to check that out.
Yeah.
But I have been Nathan Heskey,
I am Dale Downton.
and this is the Honeydew Podcast.
Bye.
Once more with feeling. Dance like there's no tomorrow.
Really, really good.